I've been anticipating checking out Chris Stuckmann's feature debut of Shelby Oaks ever since it was announced. And then when Mike Flanagan signed on to executive produce, I got even more excited. So does Stuckmann deliver the chills? A woman's obsessive search for her missing sister leads her into a terrifying mystery at the hands of an unknown evil. This is a mix of a found footage mystery and then a horror, where the beginning of the film is presented in a mix of documentary and found footage. And while this is engaging, it's not a unique way to tell a story. But then the film shocks us with something and then changes styles. Now, first off, I was very impressed with how beautiful this whole movie was to look at. The shot selections and the framings, they are captivating to take in, with a lot of variation in what we see. Now, the variety, it's not gimmicky, just something to distract from a lack of story or to jump us around because of some lackluster effects. It's just when the movie changes perspectives to watching something via mini DV tape to now a modern film, the cinematic upgrade is noticeable in a wonderful way. And this also works to make the storytelling more enthralling. I mean, I love me some found footage, and when it's done correctly, it creates a voyeuristic closeness with the subjects, but it also limits how the story can play out. I mean, if it wasn't captured on the film, we don't see it or know about it. Here, there is way more going on than just a missing person case, especially with how it affects and then consumes the sister of the one who's missing. The story centers around a YouTuber who investigated the paranormal, who all of a sudden disappeared and then has been missing for 12 years. Her sister agrees to take part in a documentary about the case when something unexpected provides clues to what might have happened. Camille Sullivan stars as Mia, the one who has been haunted by her younger sister's disappearance. And Sarah Dern portrays Riley, the YouTuber who has disappeared. Now, Riley has much less screen time in the story, but that doesn't diminish her presence. She has to alternate between bubbly and inquisitive to ambiguously haunted, sometimes transitioning in just the span of seconds. And she comes across as a likable protagonist, and one that was easy to want to know more about. Now, Mia, she's passionate and is really the story driver. Sullivan is magnetic, creating a believable mix of tenacity, heartbreak, and unwavering determination. And we also get performances from some notable names, like Michael Beach, Keith David. Oh, looky here. Looks like somebody threw away a perfectly good white boy. And then Brendan Sexton III. Stop calling me Warren. My name's not effing Warren. And while they do have limited screen time, they're all still a good presence within the movie. I wish, though, that we did get more from Sexton. I mean, he was typically relegated to brooding or sulking with only a few lines of dialogue before then storming out of a scene. The imagery that's shown looks to be heavily influenced by Mike Flanagan. I don't say that at all as a negative. I mean, he's very effective in crafting freaky things that are subtly placed within the periphery, maybe the background, so that it takes a second or two to notice. But when we do, we're effectively unnerved. And there are multiple instances of that within this movie. Sometimes just thanks to shadowing and low lights, barely a silhouette will be noticeable. And not everybody is even going to catch certain things. But when you do, chilling. And I love the nuanced and patiently placed figures and then shadowy, freaky elements that are hidden within plain sight. There were more than a handful of times when I was just straining my eyes to locate anything that might be upsetting or wrong within a scene, especially when we're shown some footage or a paused portion of a video. The character watching has already noticed something, but we're given just enough beats to also try and figure it out. The effects are also awesomely executed. I believe that the majority are practical effects that are then enhanced by some digital work. And what we do get to watch, like even some lurking dogs that are just hiding in the dark, they reinforce this threatening aura. And while the film is 100 minutes long, there are some portions that feel slower and lack a little bit of urgency, effectively dragging the pace over a couple of the scenes. Now, this didn't make the overall experience boring or like we were trudging through the story, but the minor unevenness did make this feel longer than it really was. There are also a few storytelling decisions that just kind of irked me. One is near the beginning of the film, when a character's appearance is just bothersome. Now, to give some vague context to that, think if you're watching a character on screen who has broccoli stuck in the front of their teeth, and they are aware of it. But instead of removing the green when they have the opportunity, they continue to go through that part of the story as if there's nothing in their teeth. And this happens here. All the while, I was just bothered with how unnatural this moment felt. Another time involves a ridiculous character decision. And I do know that, you know what, the characters, they don't know they're in a horror story, but after a certain character has seen and even experienced some very wonky things, they decide to go on a trek to a sketchy place in the middle of the night. And I understand the character motivation to act with urgency, but come on. I mean, it's as if we don't live in a world where Scream exists and we're all cognizant of the horror movie rules, even within a movie. And I know that might be a trifling criticism, but the character had been so smart up until that point, the decision to go into a dark and foreboding lair just kind of fell out of character. There's also a part within the final act that reminded me greatly of my favorite horror film. Now, if you've watched my channel, you know what that is. And this wasn't necessarily annoying, it just felt borrowed in such a similar manner. From the dialogue, even the cadence and the tenor of the speech. It was just a bit too close for me to count it as an original idea. But then we do get a backcrap and somewhat predictable ending that is in a classic horror film form. Now, I love the implication for how the ending plays out, making the story more disturbing and layered than I had assumed it was. There's this longevity to the darkness within the ending, and while it may appear to be just kind of rote, maybe even slightly comical in how horror-esque it is, I found it to be haunting in a way that makes me want to watch the whole thing again with a completely different perspective so that I can pick up on things that I may have just taken for granted or glossed over in the course of the whole storytelling. Overall, Shelby Oaks is a beautifully shot horror story that effectively leans on foreboding imagery and a passionate lead. The plot, while simple and a little familiar, uses folklore and decrepit locations to craft an eerie tale that's sinister at its core and unsettling in presentation. Some character decisions go against type, and a few moments are unevenly paced, but the storytelling works to establish a threatening atmosphere that can send chills down your spine. Chris Stuckmann delivers an impressive first feature-length film, showcasing what passion, determination, and creativity can create when it's given the opportunity. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and then some gnarly violence. I give Shelby Oaks 3.5 out of 5 couches. So do you enjoy found footage horrors? What's one of your favorites? I would love to get some recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.